another new episode of the season 4 of the We Talk series. We often hear change is the only constant, and we are seeing it up close and personal in our world of work today. In this world, HR and talent leaders are on their toes to remain prepared with workforce, talent, as well as business strategies. This world brings us the opportunity to learn something new every day. And today is yet another such day with another expert. The We Talk series invites the most prominent HR leadership voices to share their amazing experiences and learnings on and around the HR ecosystem. So joining us today is Santosh TK, Director, Talent Acquisition, Dell Technologies. A brief introduction about Santosh before we jumpstart to our conversation. So Santosh joined Dell in the year 2004 and has been responsible for multiple assignments at Dell since then. In his current role, he leads the talent acquisition team in India. Santosh has rich and varied experience of over 30 years in employee relations, engagement, and strategic HR advising across sectors like information technology, services, and hotels. With this, a very warm welcome, Santosh. It is indeed a delight to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Basaki. Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to an interesting conversation, Santosh. So to start off today's discussion, my first question to you would be, let's start on a different note, and that is like, let's talk about the Gen Z. Since we talk so much about this new generation entering the workforce. So on that note, I would like to know that, according to you, how to develop and implement employee development programs that resonate with the new generation's desire for this continuous learning and development.
Super. Thank you. I mean, it's a very interesting space we're in, right? I mean, the Gen Z is the largest generation cohort that we have in history. And I think as an organization, we've been pretty conscious of this fact, whether we're hiring people, because we're also looking at the Gen Z as our customers of the future that buy our technology. I mean, Dell is a technology company, so there is high possibility that this is the future of our organization. So keeping that in mind, we've always believed, and I think Michael as a founder has believed, that getting more and more younger generation into the workforce is something that we really focus on. We have so many well-run programs across the globe, whether it comes to hiring from universities, engaging with interns, etc. To your question, and setting that as a backdrop to your question, and how do we engage, especially when it comes to development, there are a couple of things that come to my mind, just to begin with. One is, this is a generation that is born in the era of technology, unlike me and pre-technology, right? So for them, everything has to be at a click of a button. Providing the tools and technology that are needed for them to be successful at their work is the first thing as they come into the workforce. The second is, as a younger generation, they're looking at a very holistic approach to work, right? Unlike previous generations where the focus is just on work and getting it done. This generation looking at what does the organization kind of give you beyond of work. So the entire employee value proposition, as we call it, and I'm sure a lot of other large organizations have it, we at Dell also have it, basically having a very people-centric approach, trying to create, spaces for well-being of people, right? The health is becoming a bit of a priority, not a bit, actually a major priority. Flexibility is becoming very critical. I think the new generation is very clear on how much they want to work, how much they want to take away, etc. And then creating opportunity and creating a sense of community, right? All of which is very important for the younger generation as they come in. When they look at growth in the organization, they're looking at what are the avenues they have for skill development, right? So doing an assessment of the skills, which we do at Dell, and then trying to understand how we can invest in their development, and then having tailored development programs for the younger generation to really grow and thrive in the organization. I think that those are some of the really key and critical things that come to my mind, and some of which we are doing very well as an organization.
Perfect. So Santosh, as we know that, though it is very important to get that right talent and set the right learning and development structure for Gen Z, another humongous task that talent leaders are entrusted with is retaining that talent also. So how can we measure the success of the efforts that goes into attracting and retaining the Gen Z talent? And according to you, what metrics should be tracked for this?
I mean, we are in a very data-driven age, right? I mean, just going back to what Rohan was reflecting on what you all do at Indeed, which is very interesting in terms of how much of analytics are coming out today, and there's loads of data. What we've done, and I'm again referencing back to what we do at Dell, Some of the things that we really take seriously is our employee satisfaction survey. It's called Dell. We do it annually. It is something that we hold all of our leaders responsible for in ensuring that we have a culture that is uh, very important for us as an organization. And most times when we talk to people outside of the organization or within the organization, folks like me who've been here so long, the first thing that people ask is, why do you stay back at Dell? What is so great? And we say it's the culture, right? So the leaders are responsible for creating that organizational culture. So tell Dell, which is a feedback that an employee would give to a leader is so critical for his or her growth at the organization. So one metric that we constantly look is at Tell Dell, and what is the feedback we're hearing from that, out of which is the ENPS score, and it's pretty similar to other large organizations. Focusing on what are our employees really saying? Do they recommend Dell as a place to really work? But above and beyond of just the hard numbers that we're able to receive through these feedback surveys, I fundamentally feel some of the initiatives that we are very critical for this Gen Next to really stay back and feel valued, and Gen Z to feel that they're really valued to stay with an organization like that. And some of which I will tell you, right? I think a lot of the younger generation puts a lot of value on environment, social and governance, the ASG, right? So we do a lot of work and a lot of promotion on our social media platforms. And that is where the Gen Z is really going and looking at us, right? They're looking at it as an organization which is young, which is out there in the social media. How are we representing the things that we do? We're constantly putting information out there about what are the initiatives that we do at Dell. The other community that we've created is the Employee Resource Group, which I believe is very, very strong at Dell. I know organizations all have it, but I think we really spend a lot of time and effort in nurturing those organizations, which are informal organizations of people coming together with a cause. And one of the employee resource group that we have is specific to Gen Next. It's called Gen Z. It's specific to Gen Z, it is called Gen Next as an ERG. And what does an ERG do? Really hearing the ideas and the thoughts of the Gen Zs and trying to see how as an organization we can support that workforce that is coming in as we move forward in this era. So some of these things, right? So one, like I said, just to summarize the hard facts in terms of what we get from our employee satisfaction surveys, creating a focus on environment, social, and governance, and then having employee resource groups that are really close. One out of which is really focused on Gen Z, right? It's called the Gen Next ERG that we have.
Thank you, Santosh, for beautifully describing that. And as I can gauge from your answer that, the cultural aspect is something that's, something rooted to the core of Dell as an organization. So at this point, I would like to ask you that in terms of Dell and also as an organizational perspective, how do you think one can identify and hire the right candidates who will be the right cultural fit?
This is a very difficult and a tricky question to answer, right? I mean, each organizations have their own cultures, which is not really tangible, but you feel it as team member. You feel it as a new hire walking into the organization. You feel it when you're interviewing by the way you are treated, etc. The starting of this whole process, I believe, is really defining what your culture looks like. You got to be clear. If you're starting off as a new organization or you're a very measured organization, like most large organizations, like Dell has been around 40 years. And I remember at one point when we were speaking about the culture and the values of the organization, one of our leaders had mentioned that these are not values that were brought by a consultant or somebody that recommended this to us. These are the values of the founder. And he truly believes in these values, which is what has become our culture code or values that hold us together as an organization. So one is really to define what is that you want to achieve when it comes to culture as an organization. The second is to make sure that it is embedded in your DNA. Everybody in your organization is aware, can feel it, sense it, can express it, can share it when people ask for it, right? When you kind of want to define what a culture is. So I'll kind of go back and give you a sense of what we do at Dell. So we start off with a people philosophy, which is pretty simple. It's ABCD: achievement, balance, connection, and diversity and inclusion. Right? We had ABCD when we started the journey. We realized diversity and inclusion is very critical to our business. It's a business imperative, which is why we added the D. And we also realized diversity is not something you can infuse, by doing a 4-hour training program. It has to be in every step of the way, right? From the time we post the job, or from the time the person comes on board, or from the time he leaves the organization. So It's an entire cradle to the grave kind of situation. So we added the D because we felt it's important to have it at the beginning itself. And then our culture code, which is what really ties all of us together as an organization. And it's pretty simple, just five principles there. It talks about the customer, which is very critical to our success as an organization, making sure we are result driven. We have a culture of winning together, and then a culture of innovation, and overall a culture of integrity, saying all this we will do, but we will do it in a very integral way. That's our culture code. That defines us as an organization. And then we have 7 leadership principles about how a leader should operate at Dell, etc. Now, just to come back to answer your question, in brief, when we're out there really making our hiring decision, from the time we post a job description on any of our social media platforms, the way we position our organization, are we an equal opportunity employer? Are we doing all the right things that a team member is looking for when he comes to the organization? That is one part of it. The second is sensitizing all of our hiring team members as well as our hiring managers. Right? We have a program called License to Hire. It really takes you through in about 90-minute session, takes you through about all the biases that you may have when you're hiring somebody, the do's and don'ts. So having a very consistent approach to hire, right? Ensuring that no matter which part of our organization you touch and which part of the world, you feel the same as a potential candidate. That is one. And then really, taking them to a very immersive experience of letting them come and experience the culture, maybe, a walkthrough of the office, in a virtual world, really connecting with our leaders. So when we do an intern program, there are so many interventions we do with the interns just to showcase what our culture at Dell is. It gives you a feel. It's not tangible, not measurable, but it gives you a feel of who we are as an organization. And while we are making hiring decisions, we are making sure we are basing most of our decisions on these competencies, on the culture code and the values that we have as an organization. They were kind of trying to meet, midway and making sure the person gets what he wants and we get what we want as an organization from the potential team member.
So Santosh, we have talked about the new generation, and we are also talking about the right cultural fit, which kind of leads me to a question that, when in terms of an organization, as we all know that, there are several age groups that are working together in an organization. Hence, the very essence of our community and that feeling of belonging within the workplace plays a very crucial role. So, how, according to you, do you think that sense of community and belonging can be created in the workplace, especially in a time like this when a lot of organization has got remote and they are working in a distributed team format? So, what would be your take on that?
Saki, I think we are fortunate because as an organization, we were on the hybrid remote kind of working since 2010. I remember at that point, Michael had said by 2020, 50% of our global workforce will work from home. But what happened in 2020, right? With COVID, everybody was working from home. So as a culture, we have been very accepting of people in the hybrid environment, right? So we are used to having, as a leader, used to having 4 people in the room, 3 people on a call, always. But I think when we try in our people philosophy, we try in our culture code, where we try to be as inclusive as we can, right? So as leaders, we are always in that state of mind to make sure, no matter how far the person is, in a staff call or whatever, he or she still feels included. That's been a culture, right? So I'm saying we started this journey about 2010. And as we grew our connected workplace, as we call it, that was a program that we launched for people to, take on a hybrid model. They could work a few days from home. We always believe that work is an outcome. It's not a place, so you can do it from anywhere that you want. These are some of the things that we drive. So as we move fast forward into a hybrid kind of world now with COVID way behind us and people coming back into the office, we still have people who are still remotely working, right? And we're a global organization, so there's always going to be somebody on the call. It's not going to be everything is going to be face to face. But the evolution has been very slow. We've taken baby steps. We've learned along the way. We used our Dell, our employee satisfaction, survey feedback as points to see, how our leaders faring in these journeys, right? Also, our employee resource groups, like I said, are massive communities of people that come together with a common interest. So we actually have an employee resource group called Connexus, right, which is meant for people who are working remotely. So they don't feel left out. They're connected. They know exactly what's happening in the organization, and making sure we are, passing that information on to them. Also, a lot of the programs that we drive, balance is very big for us in Dell. We have believed very firmly that you have one life, you got to work in that life, you also have to live in that life. So providing the balance for people and team members to really express themselves while they still continue to work at Dell. Some of the very small things that we do to stay connected, using our all hands and other opportunities for people to come together, physically, remotely. We also always have provided for both options, right? If you want to come into the office and take a call, you can. If you want to do it, it's flexible. There is no pressure that we put on our team members to come and do something that's outside of their comfort zone. So giving them that space, that flexibility, I think has really helped us create that larger community outside of a physical space, not just having this community just when you're face to face in a very physical proximity. So creating that hybrid environment has really helped us grow. Even when we are making hiring decisions, our pool is going to be larger because we're not looking at people really coming in. We can hire from any part of the world as long as the person has the skills. So that flexibility helps us also as a hiring team, has helped the organization, has helped leaders, kind of spread the wings a little more broader and wider than we normally would in a physical environment.
Amazing to know how Dell is actually spreading the wings and walking the talk. So this kind of leads me to my last question, Santosh. So far from the discussion, as we have, accumulated some points as to how essential building a sense of community, belonging, learning and development, organizations across are doing a plethora of activities for their employees. But what ultimately boils down is the feedback part as to how employees are intaking this entire effort that has been put together by the management at an organizational level. So how do you think that employees create opportunities to provide feedback, most importantly, feel heard and use this feedback to improve the workplace holistically?
I mean, the most important one is the Dell. We've put a lot of value and importance, on Dell for our leaders. No matter how good you are at delivering. So in the achievement is where you really deliver, the balance where you give flexibility to your team members. The connection is where you make sure that people stay connected, and the DNI, so our people philosophy is better. The achievement is where you really, your core job is assessed in terms of how good you are. If you're a salesperson, are you really hitting a number, etc. While it's important, but the true value is ensuring that our culture is really something that's integral to our organization. So the holding the team leader or the leader responsible to ensure that that kind of culture percolates down to the last member in the organization is something that we really focus on. So putting a lot of premium and value on Dell, and even holding it so close and ensuring that even a growth of a leader is dependent on how good or bad the Dell is, right? That's how much premium we put and value we put and importance we put on Dell. That's our biggest feedback mechanism. But along the way, there are so many other ways we can do, right? When you're having a development discussion, when you're having a skills discussion, when you're having a regular one-on-ones. Very people-centric approach, like I said at the beginning of this discussion. So we are constantly listening to our team members how we can better, right? We were hybrid. We pretty much went remote. We're back to hybrid, in the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Even as we speak, we're constantly, intaking as much as we can feedback, whether it's about our facilities, our transportation, our food, etc. So culturally, we've always been open to hearing as much as we can. So multiple channels, not just one. We do brown bags. We do skip level meetings with our team members to understand, what is that you're feeling at the moment. The feeling is very important. Are you feeling good? Are you feeling excited about coming to work every day? Do you enjoy the surroundings? Do you enjoy the community? Do you enjoy the team members that are around you? Are you learning something? It's all EVP, right? Everything has to be. There can't be one good thing and you can't let everything else out the window. So looking at multiple channels of communication, looking at how we can gather as much as we can. Also going back and implementing, because one is just getting the feedback in. What do we do is also very important. So if, like, for example, we finish our employee satisfaction survey, each of our leaders will go actually build an action plan. And even if you have a great score, we still will look at the areas of improvement, build an action plan, go back and communicate to the team members saying, thank you very much. We heard you. Here's our feedback. Here's our action plan. This is what we'll do better. So that, I think, is a continuous cycle and a process. It's very ingrained in our DNA. If you've been here like a couple of quarters, you get used to the cycle, and then you start doing exactly the things that you need.
Beautifully articulated, Santosh. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights with us. And this kind of wraps up our conversation for the day. And I did not mention what an absolute delight it was listening to your thoughts and advice throughout. So once again, thank you for joining us today and sharing your time. We will be back with yet another exciting conversation next week. So till then, keep talking, everyone.